It's finished. The press release sounded like a thunderclap in the digital world. The end of an era was announced in a synchronized statement by the G20, indeed the biggest economic forces in the world. Officially, SWIFT is being shut down. The network that once drove the world's financial arteries is being retired after more than 50 years of supremacy. Furthermore, it isn't merely another protocol or proprietary standard that is taking its place. It's not a blockchain from a central bank or one of those fintech projects from Silicon Valley. You heard correctly, it's the XRP ledger. The new financial system is based on the same open-source blockchain technology that has been referred to as anything from a conspiracy theory to a banker's dream. It's not a rumor. This isn't conjecture. This is a formal shift from bloated fees to pennies on the dollar, from delay to real time, and from legacy to ledger. The largest coordinated financial infrastructure improvement in human history has been approved by the G20, which consists of countries that account for 85% of the world's GDP. Their logic, effectiveness, openness, and impartiality. SWIFT had become too costly, too weaponized, and too slow. It was no longer appropriate for a multipolar, digitally connected society. Let's discuss SWIFT's passing. It served as the cornerstone of international settlements for many years, but as time went on, the system developed cracks. Transactions took days, fees increased, and intermediaries caused friction. Worse yet, the system was turned into a political weapon that was used against nations through sanctions and exclusion. A silent uprising was sparked by this politicization, as nations sought a substitute method of transferring funds that did not necessitate approval from a single, centralized authority. Just now, that revolt was made official. The G20 did not make its choice hastily. One conclusion emerged from a 3-year review process that involved the IMF, BIS, and central banks from all around the world. Finance in the future has to be quick, decentralized, and interoperable. Although a number of technologies were taken into consideration, including proprietary digital currencies, Ethereum and Stellar, XRP and its ledger met all the requirements for scalability, regulatory compatibility, ISO 2022 readiness, and, above all, neutrality. Another system run by a single organization, nation, or business interest was not what the G20 wanted. They envisioned an internet of value in which all currencies could move freely, safely, and instantly like data. It is precisely what the XRP ledger provides. Let's discuss numbers. The annual value of the worldwide cross-border payments business is over $10 trillion, and it is still rising. These funds have so far moved through a patchwork of intermediate organizations and correspondent banks. However, those billions will now flow directly with XRP, serving as the bridge asset and XRPL as the underlying settlement layer. How can we then reach $25,000 per XRP? Let's do the math on the serviette. The total number of XRP coins is limited to 100 billion. Assume that XRP is needed for settlement in even 10% of the $10 trillion yearly cross-border market. The yearly demand is $1 trillion. Keep in mind that the majority of the XRP supply is either locked, lost, or retained. In actuality, there are more than 20 billion liquids available. A price floor of $50 per transaction cycle is already in the cards when you divide the $1 trillion in yearly settlement demand by the 20 billion tokens involved. However, this is about reserve liquidity, not just everyday transactions. XRP will now have to be held by banks, financial institutions, and governments as a buffer and bridge asset. This implies that they will keep XRP rather than merely using it, so taking it out of circulation. The demand will likely skyrocket as those reserves grow and as volume rises. XRP must account for a sizable amount of the liquidity base in the financial industry if it is to operate on a genuinely global basis. And to be honest, that's how you reach $25,000, not through market speculation or hoopla, but through legislated utility and necessity. A date for the transition was even alluded to in the joint release. The announcement claims that SWIFT will be completely retired in the upcoming 18 months, with test regions switching to the XRPL in 90 days. Now, the question is not if, but when. Furthermore, when is far closer than most people realize. Mirroring of the system is already underway. RippleNet has already connected into payment corridors across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. The tracks are installed and the infrastructure is operational. This is a global go-live, not a beta test. The situation becomes even more severe at this point. Participating nations have committed to buying XRP through sovereign channels as part of the transition, so transforming it into a strategic reserve asset. The role of central banks is expanding. Through covert transactions and dark pools, they are quietly building up what they now understand to be the future global financial internet's connecting threads. What occurs if large-scale purchases of XRP are made by central banks? What occurs if demand isn't met by retail exchanges? What happens if the world's liquidity needs to turn your 50-cent coin into a $25,000 reserve instrument? It's an enhancement to human commerce at the protocol level, not a moonshot. It's not a pump. There is no bull run here. This is the actual process of monetizing liquidity. XRP is the commodity of the digital 21st century, like oil was the commodity of the 20th. It generates flow. Value is bridged. It does away with borders. You are holding infrastructure rather than just a coin. This action also signifies the end of U.S. dominance in international payments. In contrast to SWIFT, which was a weapon of the dollar, the XRPL is not affected by currency. It just changes value, regardless of whether you're using yen, euros, rupees, or rubles. It is generally adaptable due to its neutrality. It is based on consensus, code, and math, and is not governed by Washington, Beijing, or Brussels. Indeed, this moment confirms what the XRP army has been saying for years. The lawsuits, the regulatory shenanigans, and the mockery were all part of the opposition to change. However, as cloud computing replaced servers and TCP/IP replaced closed systems, change always prevails. I can't wait to see you again in the next video. Be careful.